I might have to turn off my camera depending on how laggy my phone gets. So yeah.
Cool, thank you, Jennifer. VP University Relations.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabe. I'm the VP University Relations and Vice Chair of the Board. My pronouns are he, him, his, and my access needs are met.
Thank you. At-large Rep 1.
Hello, my name is Bilqis, she, her, hers, and my access needs are met.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Bilqis. At-large Rep 2.
Hello, my name is Poom. My pronouns are he, him, his, and all my access needs are met.
Okay, thank you, Poom. Faculty Rep for Applied Sciences. All right, he is not here yet, so we can keep an eye out. Arts and Social Sciences. Oh, yes, sorry, I apologize. Today did give her regrets for this meeting. Next is Business, who also sent his regrets, so we will be adding that to the agenda. Communications, Art, and Technology.
Hello, my name is Heather, and my pronouns are he, him, his, and my access needs have been met.
Thank you. Education. I believe Emily also said she may be coming in late, so she is accounted for. Environment.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. My name's Anuki. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and my access needs are met.
Perfect. And health science.
My name is Nafoni. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and my access needs have been met.
Thank you, Nafoni. And science.
Hi, my name is Wei Chen. My pronouns are he, him, his. My access needs are met.
Perfect. Thank you, Wei Chen. And we do have some of our society staff here as well. And we can start off with our campaign research and policy coordinator.
Hi, everyone. It's Sarah, she, her, and hers, and all my access needs have been met.
Thank you, Sarah. And our administrative assistant.
Hi, I'm Christine, she, her, hers, and all my access needs are met.
Perfect. I think that's all for society staff. And I see our peak coordinating news editor is not Michelle. I think it's Paige. So hi, Paige. Good to have you here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Paige. I am a news writer. I'm actually not the news editor. I am the news writer with the Peak. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and all my accessibility needs are met. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the students who have come to join us. We're also recording the meeting and are trying to get into the habit of posting them online. So I'm hoping that more students will be able to watch them after the fact as well. So we can move into item 4. So 4.1, adoption of the agenda. So be it resolved to adopt the agenda as presented. Would someone like to move this motion?
Corbett moves.
Corbett moves. Thank you. Would someone like the second?
Heather.
Heather seconds. Thank you. Perfect. And for discussion, I would like to make an amendment to add a section called regrets. That usually goes, I believe, we can put that right after the adoption of the agenda. So we'll make that one item 5, regrets. And I would like to add Sude, Govindik, and Mehtab Gill. Perfect. And as for other amendments, I know some of you folks may have already sent them. However, if you did send in an amendment, please read it out now so that I can note it on the agenda as well if it's not already included on the agenda. So who's first? Corbett?
Yes, I'd like to strike 6.1, student union donations, and change it to a discussion item, same title.
Perfect. Add a discussion item. Student union donation. Samad?
Hello. Yes, I would like to add fall you pass in discussion item.
Perfect. Fall you pass. Gabe?
Yeah, I wanted to add 3 things, and I know that sounds like a lot, but they're small items. The first 2 are motions, and I'll read those out right now. I did email them, but I will read them out again. So the first one is, where is it? Here it is. So whereas many board members have expressed interest in revamping the SFSS website to make it more engaging and accessible for our membership, whereas the Accessible Advisory Committee has previously suggested a website accessibility project, and this year's website budget was increased in anticipation for such a project, whereas the SFSS usually establishes a working group every year consisting of board members and staff to look over the website. Be it resolved to establish a communications working group on the Society website and social media to undertake a website revamp project. Be it further resolved to appoint X as members of this working group to work alongside the communications coordinator and any other staff in the communications department. Be it further resolved that this working group consults student groups as part of this project, including but not limited to the SFSS Accessibility Advisory Committee, the Council Public Outreach Committee, SFU DNA, student unions and clubs. So that's the first one. The second one is much shorter. Be it resolved to appoint Heather Massoud as chair of the first year engagement committee, and be it further resolved to appoint Sude Guvendik as a member of the first year engagement committee. And lastly, I just want to add a section before new business titled Report from Council Liaison.
Perfect. Can you please copy paste the motions in the chat box?
Sure.
Perfect. All right. And next is Jennifer.
Yeah, I'd like to add a discussion item, SFU Health and Counseling Services Collaboration.
Perfect. And Balkis?
Hi, I'd like to amend to include a discussion item, SFU Athletics team name, as well as a motion that I will paste into the chat as I read it out. Yeah, 1 second. So yeah, the motion is, whereas SFU athletes are calling for a new sporting team name that is not the Klan due to racial insensitivity with it being affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan, whereas SFU athletes were surveyed and 77% of athletes were in support of SFU initiating a process to change the name since 2017, whereas SFU and SFSS have made a commitment to supporting Black lives and must actively take steps to dismantle systemic racism. Be it resolved that the SFSS board endorse the petition calling on SFU to change the team name from the Klan to one that is appropriate after student consultation. Be it further resolved that the SFSS board sign a letter drafted by counselors, including the Student Athlete Advisory Committee counselor, in line with the petition's calls and concerns. Be it further resolved that the board actively work with BIPOC athletes and students in organizing a campaign to support their calls for the athletic team name change.
All right, perfect.
We'll stall that right now.
Sounds good. Any other amendments to the agenda? All right. Would someone like to move these amendments?
Gabe moves.
Gabe moves. Would someone like to second the amendments?
Nafoni.
Nafoni. All right. So we can put it to a vote. So all those in favor of the amendments that we have just added to the agenda, seeking unanimous consent, please unmute your mic if you'd like to dissent or abstain. I'm going to assume you're probably not dissenting or abstaining. Okay, perfect. So the motion is carried unanimously. Back to the main motion. So be it resolved to adopt the agenda as amended. So we can put that to a vote now. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent as well. So seeing no dissensions or abstain, the motion is carried. Great. So we can move on to the next item now, which is regrets that we just added. And Kristen, if there's any issue with the ordering of it, please let me know. But we can move on to regrets. So item 5 for regrets. So be it resolved to approve regrets from Sude Guvendik and Mehtab Gill. Would someone like to move this motion?
Heather.
Heather. And a seconder?
Corbett seconds.
Corbett seconds. Perfect. So Sude, I believe, had an academic obligation to attend to. She may or may not be able to make this meeting. So she sent her regrets just in case. And as for Mehtab's case, he had a prior engagement for a club that he's a part of, and they're having an event today, which is why he could not make it. So any discussion? I don't really anticipate any. All right, so we can put it to a vote. All those in favor. So be it resolved to approve regrets from Sude Guvendik and Mehtab Gill. All those in favor, seeking unanimous consent. All right, the motion is carried unanimously. Perfect. So we can move on to approval of the minutes. So be it resolved to receive and file the following minutes from the board meeting on June 12th. Would someone like to move this motion?
Gabe moves.
Gabe moves. Thank you, Gabe. Would someone like the second?
Corbett seconds.
Corbett seconds. Thank you. Any discussion? No. We'll put it to a vote. So be resolved to receive and file the following minutes from June 12th. All those in favor, seeking unanimous consent. All right. So that motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, guys. We can move on to the committee minutes. So be it resolved to receive and file the following minutes. So governance from May 21st and May 28th, UAA from June 2nd, events from March 11th, exec from February 19th, March 13th, March 25th, May 12th, May 26th, and June 9th. Would someone like to move this motion?
Corbett moves.
Corbett moves. Would someone like the second?
Nafoni.
Nafoni seconds. Thank you, Nafoni. Any discussion? Any issues with the minutes? All right. Seeing none, we can put it to a vote. So all those in favor of receiving and filing the following minutes as I had just read out, seeking unanimous consent, please unmute your mic if you'd like to dissent or abstain. All right. So the motion is carried unanimously. Perfect. So we can move on to the next item, which is report from Council Liaison.
Thank you very much. Hello, hello. I'm Ryan. Some of you may remember me. I was your council liaison for the tail end of last term. I'll keep this short. First of all, thank you to all the board members that attended our council meeting on the 24th. It's a huge help to us when we can communicate with the board directly instead of through me being an errand boy. It makes our lives 10 times easier, and it's nice to see a connection between those two parties. We just urge you to keep your presentation short when you're at our meetings, because we can read the minutes and we always go over time, like always. We have received your information and your open invitations for the board committees, so that information is being passed on. We will be selecting people for our internal committees soon, so that will be up and running. And I see that you now have it on your agenda, but I guess the only real point of order was council did unanimously vote in support of the name change with the petition that SAC brought forward regarding the racial insensitivity of our team name being the Klan. I think that's it.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. And thanks for attending our meeting as well and for giving us that update. Any discussion from board members or any questions? All right, sounds good. Thank you again, Ryan. We can move on to our next item, which is new business. So the first one is going to be BIPOC committee appointment, as we have struck item 6.1. So the motion reads, be it resolved to appoint Matthew Provost and Balqis Jama as co-chairs of the BIPOC committee. Be it further resolved to appoint said members Anuki Karunajiwa and Nafoni Modi and Wei Kwa as members of the BIPOC committee for the 2020-21 term. Would someone like to move this motion?
Samad.
Samad moves. Would someone like the second?
Heather.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. All right. We can open the discussion. Balqis, you're on the list. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to move to amend the motion to include Monique Leslie as well, the VP of SOCA.
So you cut off something, Leslie?
Monique Leslie.
Monique Leslie, perfect.
Yeah, VP of SOCA. I will type out her name.
Perfect. right. All right, cool. Any other discussion on this item? I think it's pretty straightforward. Or I guess you moved to make an amendment. Would someone like to second that amendment?
Gabe can second.
Okay, Gabe seconds, Balqis moved. So any discussion on the amendment? I don't see any. Perfect. So we can put it to a vote. So all those in favor of the amendment, seeking unanimous consent, please unmute your mic if you'd like to dissent or abstain. All right, seeing none, the amendment is carried. So I'll read the motion out as it reads now, and then we can put that to a vote if there is no more discussion. So be resolved to appoint Matthew Provost and Balqis Jama as co-chairs of the BIPOC committee. Be it further resolved to appoint said members Anuki Karunajiwa, Nafoni Modi, Wei Chung-kwa, and Monique Leslie as members of the BIPOC committee for the 2020-2021 term. Any more discussion on the motion as it now reads? All right, seeing none, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as it reads. All right. If you'd like to dissent or abstain, please unmute. Seeing none, the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. We can move on now to items, well, not 6.3 anymore. We can move on to Food Hub project. So be it resolved to approve the Food Hub project for the ERSE working group as attached in the briefing note. Be it further resolved to allocate the forum chambers for the Food Hub and allocate $5,000 from an appropriate line item to be decided by the VP Finance. Would someone like to move this motion? Someone, you put it forward, so you should probably move it.
Okay, someone move.
Someone moves. Would someone like to second?
Heather.
Heather seconds. Thank you. Perfect. So now we're in the discussion period. So someone, if you'd like to go ahead and talk a little bit about the motion you put forward, you can go ahead.
All right. So thank you, Ms. Chair. So let me start by saying that I don't think everybody knows in the board, but UA committee passed decided to start ERSE, which is Emergency Response and Student Engagement Group. And the purpose of this group is to actually work on preparing possible solutions because we're in a state of emergency, possible solutions to help students out and engage the students. One of the solutions that we were working on was starting a food hub program or food streamline to help students out in this time. We all know that food scarcity or issues regarding this food situation was not just pandemic thing. It was even before that. The students were having problems before that, and we were having a food stamp program as well. But that was that's another topic. So I'm just gonna give you a brief update on that. So we were in contact with Tara Flynn, who is from SFU Civic Engagement, who is the SFU Civic Engagement Coordinator, and who was working on trying to figure out how she can also start a food hub situation or something on SFU. And she was in contact with different vendors who provide this kind of services. So we partnered up with her to talk about the possible solutions and how we can accommodate. So she received a grant, partial grant from SFU side as well to start this program. And then she was looking for a place she can work with because there was no possible place from where she can operate. So we decided to help out, and she asked SFSS as well. So we thought we were in contact with our staff, and they figured forum chamber is the best place where this can take place. It is big enough to keep the social distancing intact and also help the students out. And today Tara was here. She took a little view of the space with Dipti. Dipti showed her around, so thank you, Dipti, for that. And Tara said it's a good place and they liked it. So I think from the space issue, that's solved. And we just want to put like $5,000 in reserve for it because she didn't get the full grant she was hoping for to keep this program going till October. So now she only has enough funds to keep it going for 2 to 3 months maximum. And we don't want to stop it in between. If she doesn't get enough funds, we don't want to stop it. If a lot of students start using it, we don't want to strengthen them like, okay, yeah, that's it. Because we don't know when emergency is going to be lifted. We don't know when they will be able to go back to their jobs and get a proper food stream going for them. So we want to keep like a small amount in there, so whenever we need it, we can utilize it without actually making any kind of gap in between the program. So I will take any kind of questions now. I know like I didn't do a like amazing job explaining everything, because like we had like so many meetings and there's so much to talk about, and if I start talking, I will take the whole meeting, and I don't want to do that.
Thank you, Samad. And now we can open the floor for questions from board. Corbett?
Yeah, just I guess a follow-up for supports. Will the person need things like parking passes or whatever else, because they'll have to be transporting up to campus? Is that being handled by SFU, or is that going to be part of the cost of the program?
Thank you, Corbett, for that. So when I last spoke with her, everything will be handled by SFU and herself. So we are only providing space and volunteers from our side, and it's just optional. I will be personally here helping out, and anyone from our working group wants to come here and help out, that would be amazing. Currently, the plan is the food will be delivered by firefighters, Burnaby firefighters. They will deliver the food, and then volunteers are going to put it in the bags and everything. And then at 12, we are going to dispatch it. That's going to be every week thing. On Wednesday, volunteers will come here at 9 a.m. and food dispatch will start at 12. So that's like, and oh yeah, just got the email like few minutes ago from Tara, and they want to start the program on 22nd of July, and that's my birthday as well. So just putting it out there.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Can I do a follow-up?
Yeah, of course.
Are they going to give us some kind of progress report, every couple months or something in the program, or after the program is finished?
Yes, so definitely. That's what we are hoping for. We want to keep all the reporting data intact so we can know that like how many students are using it and how much we need to keep this going for, or that data is also valuable because we can know if we should make this a permanent thing, because right now it's just a pilot thing that's going to end in October, right? So we will be creating forms from SFU side, like we will be putting forms up there, and we will be the one who collect all the data and how many students are coming in and picking up and everything. We will keep everything there. We are only going to forward the data that they need to provide the service, like names and like how much they want food and all. Like they have already sent the list which we forwarded to UAA committee chair, Mr. Leosis, and it just it has all the information. I'm gonna meet up with them and follow up and see if they have any new information that they need. But we want to make sure that like all the data from a student side is kept with us and kept confidential, and their privacy is protected. We don't want to just give out anything, right? So we're gonna make sure that everything is intact.
Thank you, Samad. Any other Oh, Heather, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so someone is going to be the forum chambers, right? You guys
Yes.
are doing, you guys are, yeah. So just from the top of my mind, don't you think like doing it in the convocation area outside library is going to be a better idea, because it's going to be out in the open as well?
Well, you bring a really good point, but since we already know that construction is going on there and there's a lot of personnel, we don't want to crowd anything like that. So if let's say a lot of students shows up and like they're already construction people and they move things around every day. So the one area is closed one day and the other area is open from work. So it's like there's so much unpredictability for convoy area. Like last week, the podium was closed completely because of the construction. They were working on the roof, and now that's open, but the walking way on the right is closed, right? So we don't know. So that's why it's better to work from a space that we know is not under construction and that we can operate from.
Thank you so much. And if I'm not mistaken, there were some regulations around having a sink there, I believe. Samad, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so they had this request that, oh, it would be nice to have a sink, but that was just an optional thing. So that was not very mandatory thing for the space. but I'm not sure. But is there a sync? Because I don't really remember when I last visited the space, but someone told me that there is a sync already.
Yeah, there is a sync in the forum chambers, and I just wanted to update folks as well. I think that this is going to be a cool initiative to take on, and we've been in some preliminary conversations from some folks working out of the Surrey campus. Those are still in the works, but I think that this might act as a really cool pilot project. And then, you know, if things do go well, we can always extend it to other campuses as well. So, Samad, Matt, thank you for all the work that you've been doing to put this together. I think that this is going to be a pretty cool project and hopefully reach a lot of students. Any other questions, comments, concerns about the briefing note or anything else? I took a look at the budget, so thank you very much for putting that together.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and I would like to thank my whole working group who actually met every week and put a lot of effort into developing this program. Thank you, everyone.
Just looking forward to seeing it executed. If there is no more discussion, we can move on to the motion. So let me give it a read over. Any more discussion before we move on? Nope. Okay, perfect. So I'll reread the motion. So be it resolved to approve the Food Hub project from the ERSE working group as attached in the briefing note. Be it further resolved to allocate forum chambers for the Food Hub and allocate $5,000 from an appropriate line item to be decided by the VP Finance. So we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as it reads. Based on the conversation, we'll seek unanimous consent. So please, I'll give you a moment to unmute your mic if you would like to dissent or abstain. All right. So in that case, the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, folks. We can move on to the next item, which is second amendment to partial surrender of the lease for MBC. So whereas it is necessary to amend the partial surrender of lease for space in the Maggie Benson Center, MBC, to extend the outside surrender date as defined in the second amendment to partial surrender of lease agreement from June 1st, 2020 to October 1st, 2020. Be resolved that the Board of Directors authorizes Asim Mohammed, President, and Mark Fontaine, General Manager, Build SFU, to execute the second amendment to the partial surrender of the lease dated June 12, 2020. Would someone like to move this motion?
Corbett moves.
Corbett moves. Would someone like to second this motion?
Heather.
Heather seconds. Thank you, Heather. Perfect. So we can open up for discussion, and I can give a little bit of a backgrounder. So this briefing note was written up by Mark, and he is on standby as well if we do have any questions that we want to ask him specifically. But so the partial surrender of lease agreement between us and SFU actually stated that we had to be moved out by June 1st. Obviously, that has not happened. So we're going into an agreement to extend that to October 1st to give us time to move out of MBC. So based on, conversation with the building manager, with Mark, and with the folks on the building committee, this seems like a very sensible deadline. So essentially, we'll have until October 1st to fully move out of the MBC, and that in order to essentially solidify this agreement, Mark and I will be signing onto it. It is attached to the briefing note as well. And what else? Thank you, Ryan. We have a recording happening, so we'll send that to you, but he's already gone. So, so until we actually receive a certificate of occupancy and essentially achieve substantial completion in the sub, we're unable to move out of the MBC. So we can open it up to questions. Does anyone have any questions? I feel like the briefing note is pretty thorough in explaining it. Like, we can't move out, so we need to stay. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Heather, you're unmuted, but you look unconcerned. Okay, cool. So I and Mark will be signing on to this and then sending that back to SFU for their signature as well, and then retaining a copy for our files. All right, so if there's no more discussion, we can put it to a vote. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors authorizes Asim Mohammed, President, and Mark Fontaine, General Manager, Build SFU, to execute the second amendment to partial surrender of the lease dated June 12, 2020. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent, please unmute your mic if you'd like to dissent or abstain. All right, perfect. So the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. I didn't get down who moved and seconded it, but Kristen, I think you got it. Yes, okay, perfect. Thank you, Kristen. All right, so we can move on to, oh, yes, okay, cool. So HR and Personnel Committee appointment. So be it resolved to appoint Asr Mohammed as chair of the HR and Personnel Committee. Be it further resolved to appoint Matthew Provost, Corbett Gildersleeve, and Balqis Jama as members of the HR and Personnel Committee. Would someone like to move this motion?
Corbett moves.
Corbett moves.
Corbett moves.
Is anyone able to see me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I'm showing up as a black box on my screen, but never mind. Would someone like to second this motion?
Please.
Balqis seconds. Thank you. All right. So, essentially, the HR and Personnel Committee is one of the new committees that we struck, or not struck, that is now one of our standing committees, rather, that are embedded in our new policy document. So for a little bit of an overview of what this actual committee will do is it essentially is going to be overseeing all personnel matters. We're going to be acting as a labor committee for the purposes of the collective agreement. We are going to be there to negotiate the collective agreement as it comes up as well, which we are hoping to get done this summer, and essentially ensure accountability, transparency, inclusion, and democratic participation in executing the responsibilities of the committee. So it is pretty self-explanatory, a committee appointment. It said that there was a spot for another board member, preferably a non-exec, so Balqis has kindly taken up that spot. Any questions, comments, or concerns? All right, seeing none, we can put it to a vote in that case. So be it resolved to appoint Asr Mohammed as chair of the HR and Personnel Committee. Be it further resolved to appoint Matthew Provost, Corbett Gildersleeve, and Balqis Jama as members of the HR and Personnel Committee. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent, please unmute your mic if you'd like to dissent or abstain. Seeing none, the motion is carried unanimously. Cool, so we can move on to item 6.6, Member Services Advisory Committee. So be resolved to appoint X as chair of the Member Services Advisory Committee. Be it further resolved to appoint Y as members of the Member Services Advisory Committee. Would someone like to move this motion?
Gabe can move.
Gabe, thank you. Would someone like to second?
Matt. Boom, second.
Matt seconds, thank you. Cool, so we can go to discussion. So Poom has motivated for chair. Poom, are you still interested in being the chair? I'm assuming you are. Perfect, thumbs up. So unless there is anyone else who would like to essentially fight for the chairship in a vote, we can amend the motion to replace Poom's name with X. As for members, Jennifer, I believe, motivated for the committee. And was there anyone else? Because it is 2 to 4 board members are required to be on this committee. I think this one is going to be a fairly active one, as there are a lot of big projects that are going to be coming through in terms of some of the conversation we had regarding the member services working group, I think will be rerouted now to this committee. So looking over clubs policies, things that relate to student unions, to funding, and all of that stuff that really is very student facing. Jennifer, you are still interested, correct? Okay, perfect. All right. So we do need another board member to please motivate for this committee.
I believe my name was recommended for this committee. I can be on this committee.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. And I think that is appropriate as it relates to your portfolio and member-facing service delivery. Is there any other board members who would like to motivate for this committee? Of course, we can also always revisit at another board meeting, but it would be nice to have some members to get essentially things in motion. Wait, can you put your hand up? Oh, okay.
I was swimming to someone walking past.
We'll take some items off the plate. Yeah, please, someone else.
I can be put on to get it initially started, but I'm pretty busy this year, so I would prefer somebody to replace me later. But I can help get it going.
Cool. So we can also have further conversations, and if other folks are interested in motivating, that would be really
Also,
great. Yes.
You can put me down as well. I might have to resign from the committee at a later date just because I am busy, just like Corbett mentioned, but I can help move the ball rolling, get the ball rolling.
Okay. Sounds good. It's going to be like exec committee plus Boom, basically. So it sounds good. So in that case, I move to replace X with Poom and Y with Jennifer, Matt, Corbett, and Gabe. Would someone like to second that amendment?
Well, please.
I heard Bill, please. So thank you. All right. All those in favor of the amendment seeking unanimous consent, please unmute your mic if you'd like to dissent or abstain. All right, the amendment is carried unanimously, so I will read the motion now as it stands. So be it resolved to appoint Poom Luckett as chair of the Member Services Advisory Committee. Be it further resolved to appoint Jennifer Joe, Matthew Provost, Corbett Gildersleeve, and Gabe Leosis as members of the Member Services Advisory Committee. All those in favor, seeking unanimous consent. Unmute your mic, please, if you'd like to dissent or abstain. All right. So that motion is carried unanimously. Perfect. I'm really looking forward to getting this committee off the ground. I think it'll be great. So we can move on now to the motions that were added to the agenda, starting with the one from Gabe regarding the communications working group. So I will scroll up and read that one off. So whereas many board members have expressed interest in revamping the SFSS website to make it more engaging and accessible for our membership. Whereas the Accessibility Advisory Committee has previously suggested a website accessibility project, and this year's website budget was increased in anticipation for such a project. Whereas the SFSS usually establishes a working group every year consisting of board members and staff every year to look over the website, be it resolved to establish a communications working group on the Society website and social media to undertake a website revamp project. Be it further resolved to appoint X as members of the working group to work alongside the communications coordinator and any other staff from the communications department. Be it further resolved that this working group consults students as part of this project, including but not limited to the SFSS Accessibility Advisory Committee, the Council Public Outreach Committee, SFU DNA, student unions, and clubs. Would someone like to move this motion?
Gabe moves.
Thank you, Gabe. Would someone like to second?
Jennifer seconds.
Jennifer seconds. Thank you. All right, so we'll open it to Gabe to start off our discussion.
Yeah, so I think the motion is pretty self-explanatory, but for a while now, even before I was on the board, there was a lot of talk amongst previous board members and students that there's a lot of things regarding the SFSS website that could be changed, mostly around kind of just organizing information around and making it more laying things out so it's easier for students to navigate, as well as the motion reads. There was a lot of discussion around making the website more accessible, and that discussion kind of started at the Accessibility Advisory Committee last year, an idea put forward by one of the committee members. And I spoke to Sindhu about this, our communications coordinator, just before I put this motion forward, and she did tell me that this is usually something that's done on a yearly basis. And when it comes to things like the accessibility, making it more accessible, the communications budget for the website was actually increased this year in anticipation for a project like that. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for some of the board members here who might be interested to take some time and sit down and work on brainstorming ideas for how we can make this make the SFSS website more engaging and accessible and easy for a membership to navigate. In terms of the actual changes that would be made to the website, I was going to put together a briefing note, but I wasn't quite sure what to include in that briefing note because I'm not entirely sure what changes should or can be made. So I think that's something that the working group should look at before we actually start initiating any changes. And what that looks like and if somewhere along the way that costs us any money, and then hopefully sometime within the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks, just bring that back to the board and we can kind of have a small discussion and get some board members' opinions on that. And it's just part of this, you know, I mentioned that this is not just interest from within the board. I think many students, many of our members kind of want to see this done as well. Of course, starting with working with groups such as the Accessibility Advisory Committee is just a great place to start. I've spoken with our council chair, Azaid, and the council vice chair, Helen, and they've both expressed interest in working alongside anyone on this working group to get this going. And the Council Public Outreach Committee is dedicated to, is a committee of council there to make the membership aware of what council is and what they do. And so working with them, try and maybe get them a dedicated page or section of the website would be great. And also including SFU DNA when it comes to things such as accessibility and student unions and clubs, obviously, because that's a big part of the students who actually use our website. So that's my explanation. I'll, of course, answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Gabe. Matt, you're on the list. You can go ahead.
Thank you. Is everyone able to hear me? All right, perfect. I think this is a really great idea. I was actually just having this conversation with someone. I don't remember if it was Asib or at like another meeting, but I was looking at the website, and that's something that I've been trying to work my head around, especially for services, definitely, and especially through COVID. As we know, a lot of things have been, you notice a lot of different organizations, if they had really well, you know, online support, then the transition was easier. But for us, you know, working remotely and things like that, our website should be like the main place where students can access, you know, what our services are and like really detailed information. And it should be really easy to navigate. Even just, you know, I know even for us to find some policies and things like that is a little bit of a struggle sometimes, but I'd be really happy to, you know, kind of help support this in any way, like just to even I was talking with like Austin about just adding like different resource pages, you know, not even specifically for SFSS, but like even for Vancouver, Burnaby, Surrey, New West, services that may be located around certain where students are living, so they can access those resources and things like that, whether that's like mental health or like food bank stuff or like, you know, just other types of support that they need. And yeah, just looking at the website now, I definitely would have some good input. And yeah, so thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Matt. Poom, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm gonna keep this short, but like sometimes when I go on the club portal, like the Go SFSS, I click on a link and it would lead to, sometimes it would lead to nowhere, just 404, dead. Sometimes it would lead to like a really outdated policy. Like there's one that like it said grants have to be submitted 10 calendar days, but in reality it's 10 business. And there's a bunch of like dead organizations that are still on the website. And people click join, and then that organization stays alive even though it has no execs or members. Yeah, so I would be really interested in changing the website.
Thanks, Poom. Wei-Chun, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think we need to make a lot of changes to the website. Like I think Matt said, like linking, like making sure it's easy to navigate, and then I think making it more accessible to like find other groups that are part of the FSSS. So like Out on Campus, Women's Center, FNSA. Like I think those kind of things should be linked like clearly on the website, so people can just go on one website and then it will link to like if you know Women's Center's like own page and like all that. And yeah, with what Poom said as well, like club portal is not that great. I think there's a lot of changes that need to be made around the club portal as well, like in terms of like managing execs and like looking at their positions and like just like I think more information on the club portal page would be good, because I heard a lot from like clubs and execs that it is a little confusing to navigate. And it's not very informative. So yeah, I think it's a good working group to establish.
Thanks, Wei Chun. Corbett, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of people. My only word of caution is that since 2015, I've seen the website get redeveloped multiple times. A lot of times they spend quite a bit of money that makes it look most like just a facelift. So, and I know into the latest version of the site, there was like the company we hired did do an interview process with students in different student groups. I was actually part of that. Like I was interviewed as a student union coordinator, student union member. If we want to start talking about additional features and stuff, that's going to be a lot of work and a lot of time and money. So it's not going to be a quick change. I just wanted people to know that the working group will probably be involved in this for the rest of the year.
Cool. Thank you, Corbett. Any more discussion on this item? Oh, Gabe, you can go ahead.
Oh, I was unmuted that whole time. Okay. Yeah, so I suppose now I would just ask if anyone would like to motivate to be a member of this working group, because we will need to amend the motion to include our names. So of course myself, I would like to be involved in this. I don't know, maybe Matt and Poom, you kind of expressed. Matt, yes.
Yeah.
Poom, yes. Cool. Does anyone else does it pique anyone else's interest?
I'd be interested. Jennifer.
So Gabe, Matt, Poom.
I'm interested in as well.
Jennifer, Wei Chun. Have I missed anyone?
No, I think that was all.
Okay, perfect. So are you moving that amendment, Gabe?
Yes, but that also includes Heather, sorry.
Oh, okay, cool. And Heather. Perfect. Would someone like to second that amendment?
I'll do it. Heather.
Heather. Cool. And let me go back to the motion so I make sure I'm doing it right. So that's to replace X with Gabe, Matt, Poom, Bilqis, Heather, Jennifer, and Wei Chun. We can put that amendment to a vote unless there's any discussion. I don't really anticipate any. All right, cool. So all those in favor of the amendment, seeking unanimous consent again, please unmute your mic if you would like to dissent or abstain. All right, seeing none, the motion is carried unanimously. So I will read the be it resolved clause now as it reads. So be it resolved to establish a communications working group on the society website and social media to undertake a website revamp project. Be it further resolved to appoint Gabe Leosis, Matthew Provost, Poom Luckid, Bilqis Jamat, Heather Masood, Jennifer Jo, and Wei Chun Kwa as members of this working group to work alongside the communications coordinator and any other staff from the communications department. Be it further resolved that this working group consult students as part of this project, including but not limited to the SFSS Accessibility Advisory Committee, the Council Public Outreach Committee, SFU DNA, student unions, and clubs. All those in favor, seeking unanimous consent, please unmute your mic if you would like to dissent or abstain. Seeing none, the motion is carried unanimously. Perfect. Lots of new committees and stuff to work on. And now we can move on to the next motion that was added to the agenda. So regarding the first year engagement committee. So be it resolved to appoint Heather Masood as chair of the first year engagement committee. Be it further resolved to appoint Sude Guvendik as a member of the first year engagement committee. Would someone like to move this motion?
Me, Heather.
Heather, would someone like to second it?
Matt.
Matt, perfect. Awesome. So I know, Gabe, you submitted this motion, but I don't know if Heather wants to be the one to talk on it. Up to you two.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Sude's the current chair and Heather is already a member of the committee, so they're just swapping. Sude wanted to step down from the chairship, but she still would like to be a member of the committee. So she might potentially be vice chair or in a capacity like that. But it's just a swap between the two of them.
Sounds good. Heather, anything to add or all good? All right, perfect. Any other discussion on this item? All right, so we can put it to a vote. So be it resolved to appoint Heather Masoud as chair of the First Year Engagement Committee. Be it further resolved to appoint Sude Guvendik as a member of the First Year Engagement Committee. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent, please unmute your mic if you would like to dissent or abstain. Seeing none, the motion is carried unanimously. We can move on to our last motion of the day, which is regarding the new sporting team name. So I can read the motion as it appears. So whereas SFU athletes are calling for a new sporting team name that is not the Klan due to racial insensitivity with it being affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan, whereas SFU athletes were surveyed and 77% of athletes were in support of SFU initiating a process to change the name since 2017, whereas SFU and the SFSS have made a commitment to supporting Black lives and must actively take steps to dismantle systemic racism. Be resolved that the SFSS board endorse a petition calling on SFU to change the team name from the Klan to one that is appropriate after student consultation. Be it further resolved that the SFSS board of directors sign a letter drafted by counselors, including the Student Athlete Advisory Committee counselor, in line with the petition's concerns and calls. Be it further resolved that the board actively work with BIPOC athletes and students in organizing a campaign to support their calls for the athletic team name change. Would someone like to move this motion?
Bilqis.
Bilqis moves, thank you. Would somebody like to second?
I'll second Anuki.
Anuki, thank you. Okay, cool. We can move into discussion. So Bilqis, you can go ahead.
Hi, yeah, so I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the petition going around calling for SFU to change its name from the Klan, as it is pretty linked with just the KKK, like there's no other way to put it. So I linked to the petition if you haven't had the chance to see it already, and it's grown a lot. It's like, I checked last night, it was 4,500 signatures. But anyways, student athletes or just student organizers, the ones like really leading this campaign, have reached out to me and just want our support. So, and I think it's just totally in line and appropriate with the kind of advocacy we want to do. And I'm interested in like us as a board supporting them and supporting them in organizing the campaign that they've already started.
Cool, thank you, Bilqis. So any discussion? Gabe?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think I'm in support of the motion, and I think that this is a very simple step that the board can take if we're actually, committed to fighting against or, supporting anti-racism on campus. And, the board will continue to ask the university and continue to work with the university in order to make sure that they're actually moving toward actually changing the name. And I think that this is an easy first step. So yeah, I'm in support.
Cool, thank you, Gabe. And I'd like to say honestly that I'm in support of the motion as well. Of course, I don't think that there's any good reason that the team should still be named the Klan, because I know this conversation didn't just start recently. This conversation has been ongoing for many, many years. I remember even recently watching a video that the Peak put out surveying students about it, and even back then students were not feeling comfortable with the name. And I think in part of these consultations and stuff, not only should the athletes be consulted, but actual Black students on campus, because the KKK is certainly active in Canada. It is active in our area, which is particularly concerning and very relevant to us as well. So I'm really happy to see this get off the ground. I don't really think that the university needed a consultation for this in the first place. And by consultation, I mean just hiring some random consultant and paying them a ton of money and spending a lot of time essentially to find out something that students have been telling you directly. But There has been indications that they are planning to make a commitment soon to actually like changing the name, which is good. I just think the petition will be a good push in that direction. Wei-Chun?
Yeah, I'm fully in support of this petition with everyone, what everyone said as well. Yeah, I think it is really important, especially like, we committed to tackling anti-Black racism on campus. This is one of the things that needs to be addressed, and that should have been addressed a long time ago. Especially, with SFU being the only kind of Canadian sports team that's part of the NCAA, so they travel to the States a lot, and like just that association with like KKK, and as I'll say as well, like there is KKK presence in Canada as well. So like changing that name, like I think that's like a no-brainer. If Black student athletes are actually speaking about it, we should actually listen to them. And I think the time for like consulting and like debating is over, and we should really move forward with this.
Thank you, Wei-Chun. And I'd also like to say, it's not only Black athletes and just, random students who have been part of this conversation. There was a really great event going on last night, hosted by the SFU African Students Association, regarding Black youth and organizing, and they were very much in favor of actually consult with the students and organizers who are on your campus and pay them to do the work. They're the ones who are the experts and the ones who have actually been living it. So I'm hoping that SFU can maybe start to go in that direction instead of, hiring these EDI consultants that are often non-Black folks anyway. So yeah, and just a shout out to the ASA for hosting that really great event. Any other discussion on this topic? I think there's a pretty big consensus that we think this is something that needs to move forward and move forward quickly. So if there's no more discussion, we can put it to a vote. So I will read over the be it resolved clause again. So be it resolved that the SFSS board endorse a petition calling on SFU to change the team name from the clan to one that is appropriate after student consultation. Be it further resolved that the SFSS board sign a letter drafted by counselors, including the Student Athlete Advisory Committee counselor, in line with the petition's concerns and calls. Be it further resolved that the board actively work with BIPOC athletes and students in organizing a campaign to support their calls for the athletic team name change. All those in favor? Seeking unanimous consent based on the conversation we just had. Please unmute your mic if you'd like to dissent or abstain. Okay, so seeing no dissent or abstentions, the motion is carried unanimously. Perfect. Hello, Marie. Thank you for joining us. We just had our little discussion and conversation about a motion that was put forward by Balqis regarding the changing the name of the SFU clan. So thanks for joining us.
Sounds good. Thanks.
No worries. I think what might be nice before, I know it is up as a discussion item as well, but I think what would be nice before we move into our discussion item is to have a bit of a break if everyone is feeling that. Yeah. All right, perfect. So let's have a 5-minute break. Or what do we think? We've got we're doing good for time today. 10 minutes? 10? Okay, cool. So 10-minute break. Everybody please be back for 3:42. Thanks. Hello, everyone. It is 3:42, so we can get back into the meeting and give everyone a moment to get started. Cool. So let's move on to item 7.1, Greek life organizations. I can talk on this a little bit, and then Jennifer, if you want to jump in, because I know we've been having this conversation. But currently, we've been in conversation with some student organizations that have essentially Greek life associated with them. For instance, Phi Delta Epsilon, I think it's called, is the medical or pre-med fraternity at SFU, and they essentially are a professional frat. So it's kind of an organization where students can get together and help to further their professional careers, essentially. And it's been a long-standing conversation with the SFSS on their status regarding club status. Right now, in order to receive funding in form of grants and stuff like that, you do need to be a club within the SFSS. However, there have been a lot of conversations about whether we are able to recognize Greek life organization as clubs because of the perceived threat, I think, of a number of different things that are often related with social sororities and fraternities that I still think need addressing, but I think also do need to be differentiated from the professional fraternities and sororities. For instance, there are social ones on campus. So there's been a long-standing question of, should we recognize them as SFSS organizations? Should we continue to not recognize them? And they're kind of in a bit of a limbo right now. And they're, Jennifer, did you want to kind of jump in and have explained it? I know that you've been in conversation with the folks from Phi DE, so that might be helpful.
Yeah, so most fraternities, I just want to make it clear that most fraternities have a strict no hazing policy. So that was something that people were concerned about in terms of liability for the SFSS. Also, a lot of these fraternities have their own liability insurance, and the professional fraternities and the social fraternities have different types of liability insurance. When I talked to the representative from the professional medical fraternity, she said that we should they're looking to extend their club status to next year, I believe, or just for indefinitely, because currently I think it expires sometime in 2021. But she suggested starting with professional fraternities and granting them club status, and then we can see how it goes. And then if it goes well, then we can move on to conversations with social fraternities.
Yep, and to be honest, I'm in agreement. I think that I don't think that there's much risk associated with the professional, GLOs particularly. They function very similarly to clubs. Their activities are very similar to clubs. It's pretty much just the affiliation of like those specific Greek letters, and they are often affiliated with bigger nationwide or international organizations, which of course I don't think is a problem because it doesn't really pose a safety risk. And then when it comes to the social frats and sororities, I also don't think it's appropriate to kind of just brush them off and kind of say it's not our problem, because at the end of the day, the people who are involved in those organizations are indeed our members and our students, who I think we should be watching out for. So if there is a way that, we can make sure that things are safe, and this is obviously not me saying that it's not safe to join for a frat or sorority, but that can be often I think a stereotype that's associated with them. So I would like to see how we can explore to make sure that they are safe and incorporated in the SFSS in a safe way. Let's see who's on the list. Corbett?
Yeah, I know a number of the Greek life ones are, I'm assuming they're legal organizations on their own, like fully independent, like registered nonprofits, or I'm just wondering what their legal status is, especially for the professional ones. If that will cause any challenges or not. Like I'm not really sure. I don't know how they work.
Thanks, Corbett. I mean, I can give a brief update on what the discussion was last year, because it did briefly come up. We had a conversation at the board about it, whether we wanted to handle it as a board or whether we wanted to essentially delegate the decision making and exploration of the issue to staff, to our general manager in particular. And we did, but I think it might be nice to revisit this as a board. So I know it is only a discussion item right now, but I think what might be helpful is that, you know, Jennifer and I can maybe start engaging in some of those conversations with the different GLOs on campus, particularly the professional ones that may be a little bit easier to make that designation for. And then maybe we can revisit the social frats and sororities or Greek life organizations in coming, I guess, months, and then see if we can kind of develop a plan to work with them. What do you folks think? Balqis?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The way that the professional Greek life organizations operate is pretty straightforward, and like I'm in favor of just getting that going as soon as possible. As well as the social ones, I do agree that it is our responsibility to take care of our members, as like they are involved in Greek life, like social Greek life. So it's not really responsible on our part to just say not our problem and like hands off, because at the end of the day, a lot of the activities happen regardless, and if we have like safety nets in place, that's always better for our members. So I'm very much in agreement with that.
Cool, thank you, Balqis. Any other discussion on this item? Okay, looking like none. So I'm hoping that we're in agreement essentially to just task Jenna, our VP Student Life, and me to look into this a little bit more and bring our findings back to the board. Sounds good? All right, perfect. So we can move on then to item 7.2, AGM chair appointment. Gabe, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So right now we're kind of in the beginning stages of planning our annual general meeting, and that is going to be happening. I don't remember the exact date. I think it's October 26th, I want to say. I'll have to double check on that. But essentially, the AGM committee has met, and there are a number of action items that we need to take that were taken out of that first meeting, and one of them is who we're going to appoint, or who we're going to have chair the annual general meeting, or put forward to the membership to appoint as the chair. And as of right now, I know in years past we've usually brought in a parliamentarian or someone who has much more lengthy and maybe a couple years or so of experience with the Robert's Rules of Order or parliamentary procedure. However, this year we're thinking that with it being online and maybe even potentially just trying to get students familiar with our board members and trying to engage that way, we would like to put forward our president, Asib, as chair of the annual general meeting. And so I think it was just put as a discussion item today to just kind of see how the board felt about that, and if there's consensus to go forward with that plan.
Yeah, so I'm happy to chair the AGM, as I don't anticipate there's going to be any really high stakes or very, I guess, controversial, I would say, motions on the agenda. Of course, that is dependent on what the membership decides to bring, so we never really know. But I'm comfortable with chairing this meeting, and we can formalize this later on. And if we do change our minds and want to appoint someone else as a external chair, we can also do that as well. So yeah, this is, I guess, generally just an update on what we're thinking regarding the AGM chair. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, cool. So let's move on to item 7.3, SFSS Just Recovery Brief on Canada's COVID-19 response to the House of Commons. Balqis, you can start it off.
Sure. I guess this is more of an update as well. So members of the external committee, as you know, we passed a motion to endorse the Just Recovery principles, as well as submit a brief to the House of Commons in line with Just Recovery. So that's what has happened just last week. Members of the external committee submit a brief to the House of Commons on Canada's COVID-19 response, particularly to the members of the Standing Committee on Industry, Science, and Technology. I did attach it to the meeting minutes, or just like as an attachment to the agenda. So I hope you guys had a chance to look at it. A lot of it is really, a lot of it's from our report, as well as like our COVID-19 survey report, and just explaining that the government needs to prioritize support for students, financial relief, and just overall advocating that they commit to a just recovery and really prioritize people and well-being, environmental and human well-being over like corporations and convenience. So I hope you guys had a chance to check it out, and just let me know if you have any comments.
Cool, thank you, Balkis. Any other comments? And thank you for the update, and of course, thank you very much for getting to work on this. We also, I don't recall if we mentioned it, but recently signed on to a letter calling John Horgan, our premier, to essentially commit to following the just recovery principles in essentially BC's move back into hopefully fairly normal life. Any comments? We good to move on? Cool. All right, thank you. So we can move on to the next item, which is SFSS in support of Vancouver City Council motion before a call for race-based and socio-demographic data in BC. Balkis, would you like to go ahead again?
Sure. So we had the opportunity to speak in favor of a motion and address Vancouver City Council, and this motion was calling for collection of race-based and socio-demographic data in BC, and a lot of Black community organizers, members, organizations have been calling for the collection for a very long time, and we know that data collection is extremely important to even like begin addressing stuff. Besides the fact that there is lived experience and like BIPOC and marginalized folks are vocalizing their lived experiences, just really important to see that we have data like collected so we can figure out like strategically how to address stuff. So I thought it was really important. And thank you to Sarah, our campaigns policy and research coordinator, for bringing this forward and bringing this to our attention. So yeah, I'll try to get the video up and just shared as soon as possible, as soon as it's ready, just to like hear. And yeah, we just really spoke to the importance of the motion, that it's not just like arbitrary data collection. Firstly, not to just be used as like a stalling tactic to, oh, let's figure out if systemic racism exists. We know it exists. It's more like we need to see exactly how to tackle it. And also expressed support for the fact that like it's intended to make sure that racialized communities and BIPOC communities are really co-owning, co-analyzing, and really driving this research. Because a lot of times institutions have actually collected data and then used it to harm. It's either like made inaccessible to the communities or actively used to harm them. So I'm really like happy that we got to speak to it. Good news, it was passed unanimously, and there were so many speakers lined up for it. And yeah, that is pretty much the summary of what happened.
Cool, thank you, Balkis. And just to echo what Sarah said, big shout out to you for doing a great job of presenting on our behalf. Much appreciated. So, any questions, comments, concerns? So I think in that case, we can move on to item 7.5, or I guess not 7.5 anymore as the numbers have shifted, but either way, student union donation. Corbett, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I kind of talked about this a little bit internally with the board, but I figured best to have a proper discussion at the table. Honestly, it's been about a month or so now. There was a couple of student unions, especially in the arts and social sciences faculty, started asking about being able to don't use their core funding to donate to charities. This was around the same time that the board released their Black Lives Matter statement and encouraged students and I guess, student groups to donate to various Black-led charities. And so I got tagged into this, and I started asking around internally with staff to see how this could be done. Currently, the rules are that student unions can use any of their trust funds however they wish. They can use that to donate to charity. Trust funds are any funds that they have fundraised on their own. The problem is not all student unions have much in trust funds, either have trust funds or have much in them. However, core funding is primarily only used for a lot more internal stuff, event supports. It has less restrictions than grants, but it still has a few. But primarily, it's to support the activities of the student union. One of the restrictions is that they can't use it to donate to external organizations and charities. We as a board can suspend, amend, or repeal that particular policy if we do so. And there was a motion today for that, but because I didn't have time this week to create a proper briefing notes with options, I didn't think it would be appropriate to motion that yet. Talking to staff, there's a couple ways we can do this from a logistics perspective, and they kind of go in two different priorities, I guess, is a way to look at it. One is that we suspend the policy and let the groups donate who they want. And we can suspend the policy for a certain amount of time and then look to see how that was used and revisit if we want to make this a permanent change or something that should be done only temporarily or maybe not in the future again, in case something, in case it was misused, this new freedom. The priority around that is respecting student unions' autonomy to donate where members feel is most appropriate. The challenge with this is because unlike trust funds, which is fully under the control of the student union, core funding is more or less under the control of the SFS. So there is some legal responsibility on our end if a student union donates to, say, a charity that is fraudulent. Well, another issue was raised was if, say, an executive in the student union was also somehow benefiting from the charity that was being donated to, either like as a conflict of interest or something else that we didn't know about. From a logistics perspective, it's very difficult for the SFS to be able to monitor that. And so there was some concern raised with going with that method. An alternative method that was kind of brainstormed was that we still suspend the policy, but we restrict the donation locations to groups that the SFS has already supported, or rather have already, primarily the ones that we have already encouraged students to donate to during our statement. And that we could also use this as an opportunity to try to do a larger fundraising to encourage other student unions to donate to these specific groups. I know, speaking with at least one student union exec, they had planned to donate to a specific group, and then we're trying to think of ways to do increased fundraising on their own. So allowing us to use the SFS's resources and infrastructure and communications tool to be able to kind of handle that, to take that load off of an individual group would be beneficial. However, it does restrict what the groups that some of these students might have wanted to donate to is now restricted to ones that we have more or less verified. Because we don't have a process for vetting charities that much. And so there is some logistical challenges with this. But yeah, primarily there's just two options I know of. One is basically let student unions donate wherever they wish, or that the SFS takes more of a leadership role and handles and funnels donations to specific areas. So next steps for me would be, one, to answer any questions as best I can, and two, would go back to staff, and if seems to be a preference from the board, which way to go, then we can hammer out the logistics and come back to you, and then we'll do an actual motion for ideally for next board meeting.
Cool. Thank you, Corbett. Poom?
I went to two things. First, I did go to the FAST DSU meeting to ask them specifically about your ideas that you posted about on Discord. They seem to be okay with, they understand that there might be scam charities or that conflict of interest. So they are mostly okay with getting us to approve the charities. So option 2. Second thing, kind of a question. So I'm not sure if you're aware of the World Literature Students Union, but they did attempt to donate core funding already, and they emailed the member services coordinator and it got approved. And then they tried to get it reimbursed, but then didn't get approved. I'm not sure if you know about the situation or what we can do to remedy it, because I expected that it would be an agenda item passed today. Yeah.
I heard a tiny bit about this, but I hadn't had time to look into it more. I will do so. And I'll get back to you to see what we can do to sort it out.
Cool. Thank you, Corbett and Poom. Yeah, looking forward to seeing the briefing note that you do write up, Corbett, and the recommendations, of course, that come out of the conversations that you do intend to have. Are there any other questions or comments? Yeah, I feel like it's fairly straightforward.
List.
Oh, sorry, I just saw that. Yeah, please go ahead.
I think I was looking forward to the motion for today, but because I do think it's a pressing, like really relevant matter at the moment. I guess I'm in favor of like having a list of stuff we already like, organizations or causes and stuff that student unions can donate to, and then if they have others, like I don't think we should restrict the list fully, but because we don't know everything. So when things are brought forward, it can kind of go through like an approval kind of basis. And I'm in favor of putting a motion forward today and just like making a decision about this.
Wei-Chun?
Yeah, I kind of agree about these two. Like, have the list of like quite a few organizations that we approve, like vetted and approved, and then if members, like other clubs or unions, want to like feel very passionate about donating to one of like the organizations they believe in, they can submit a request, and then but probably like make a disclaimer or something saying that it will take some time for us to like vet and approve of the donation to the charity that they want. But yeah, I think like we shouldn't restrict it too much on that, but just have a list ready, and then yeah, open up the option for people to submit alternatives organizations that they want to donate to.
Thanks, Wei-Chun. Poom's asking, quick question, is it possible to do a motion via email? So it is possible. It does require unanimous consent. And then that's something that potentially could be reported back at the next board meeting. And I think we have had we've had a conversation here, so I don't know if it would be a surprise to anyone, but I don't know if the other folks, based on the conversation, want to move a motion. Anybody?
If you want, I can bring back the original motion I struck. It's pretty straightforward. It's the debate result is one line.
Cool. So in that case, we do have to. Oh, Buckley's. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a like basically Corbett's motion, but in what I think is better wording. So I want to put that.
Can you copy paste it in the? Unless you and Corbett want to. Well, Corbett fine with it. Okay, cool. Buckley's, can you copy paste it, please? Oh, Sarah, are we not able to pass a motion via email and report back?
Not via email, no.
Okay. Is there, I thought that there was a mechanism available for remote.
Like using a video chat is okay, using telephone's okay, just not email.
Oh, so if we were to do like a group call, even if it wasn't in the setting of a meeting, that would work if it was unanimous?
If you'd have to still call a meeting, but what you can do is what the board did last year to have a quick meeting with the Hong Kong protests was you just have to have a petition.
Yeah.
But that can just be like sending an email out to everyone.
Okay.
Or you can have it as a meeting of an exec if that's even easier. But it's pretty easy to quickly call that and just have a list of board members that are coming.
Okay. I was under the impression that there was availability to vote by mail. I can see some folks on the list. I'm gonna cross-reference Robert's rules as well, but thank you, Sarah, for flagging that. Wei Chen?
Yeah, can you maybe point out where it says that we can't do that? That would be great.
It doesn't say where you can't do email. It just says in Robert's rules where you can. Unfortunately, I don't have an online copy of Robert's rules though.
Okay, cool. We can revisit this and look up, but we've got the motion on the table now, so we can just go through that. So, Balkis, are you moving to amend the agenda to include that motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. Would someone like to second that?
No, second.
Wei Chen seconds. So this will need 2/3 majority vote to pass. So all those in favor of amending the agenda to include the motion as it, Gabe, I believe it would just go in the order that we're visiting it. Kristen, I don't know if you have a particular order that you want to put it in on the agenda. I don't think it matters too much as long as it's on there somewhere. All right, so that was moved by Billy, seconded by Corbett. Okay, cool.
Yes, I can second it.
Oh, okay. I was sorry. I thought that you had already, but so all those in favor of amending the agenda to include the motion as Billy's copied it in the chat. So whereas the student unions have reached out with the desire to donate to Black Lives Matter focused causes with core funds, whereas the use of these funds for supporting events and other activities is restricted due to COVID-19 and social distancing, whereas the SFSS Board of Directors at the June 12th board meeting approved a $3,000 donation to the Black and BC Community Emergency Support Fund for COVID-19, whereas the SFSS has released a statement on June 1st, 2020 in support of Black Lives Matter and Indigenous peoples and encouraged students to support Black-led initiatives and organizations. Be resolved to suspend MGP for 4.14a until August 1st, 2020 to allow student unions to donate core funding to Black-led causes and organizations and or Indigenous-led causes and organizations. All those in favor of amending the agenda to include this motion, seeking unanimous consent, please unmute your mic to dissent or abstain. All right, so the motion is carried. So that's now on the agenda. Kristen or Sarah, if you can jump in, is it appropriate if we just go through this motion now, or would that have to go to the end of the agenda?
It's up to you. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter because discussion technically isn't part of Robert's rules.
Okay, cool.
I would just do it now because it's a motion, but yeah, up to you.
Cool. I'm comfortable with doing it now if everyone else is, since we're on the topic already. All right, perfect. So now we can go to the motion. So whereas student unions have reached out with the desire to donate to Black Lives Matter focused causes with core funds, whereas the use of these funds for supporting events and other activities is restricted due to COVID-19 and social distancing, Whereas the SFSS Board of Directors at the June 12th board meeting approved a $3,000 donation to the Black in BC Community Emergency Support Fund for COVID-19. Whereas the SFSS has released a statement on June 1st, 2020 in support of Black Lives Matter and Indigenous peoples and encouraged students to support Black-led initiatives and organizations. Be resolved to suspend MGP 414A until August 1st, 2020 to allow student unions to donate core funding to Black-led causes and organizations and or Indigenous-led causes and organizations. Would someone like to move this motion?
Please.
Please moves. Would someone like the second?
I'll second.
Wei-Chun seconds. Thank you, Wei-Chun. Any discussion on the motion at hand? I can say I'm happy to pass this one now, so we can kind of get the ball rolling. I think our intentions are very clear. And then in suspending the policy and then looking into ways that we can essentially control for what I don't think is going to be deliberate, but any potential issues with the actual place that we're donating to, we'll make sure to do our due diligence and to essentially cover whatever may come up. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Any further discussion? I know we kind of already had the discussion.
List.
Oh, Bill, please.
Thanks. I just wanted to point out one thing you might notice that's different than the motion that Corbett struck earlier is that I kind of just removed the word charities and replaced it with Black-led causes and organizations, because a lot of the meaningful organizing that is happening is just with like Black mutual aid or organizations that have already existed and been doing the work to support Black lives. So that's why I just wanted to make it more like suit the context more of Black Lives Matter. And I was worried that like specifically restricting it to BLM could be interpreted as just BLM, whereas there are a lot of organizations and people that are working to support the cause.
Cool, thank you. Yep, that sounds good to me. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? No, if not, we can go to a vote. So I can read over the be it resolved clause. So be it resolved to suspend MGP 414A until August 1st, 2020 to allow student unions to donate core funding to Black-led causes and organizations and or Indigenous-led causes and organizations. All those in favor, seeking unanimous consent, please unmute your mic if you'd like to dissent or abstain. All right, so the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, guys. We can move on to then the next discussion item, which is fall UPass. Samad, would you like to go into that one?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So as everyone knows, summer term, they suspended the UPass service. And we had few students coming up emailing like, know about if we're going to do UPass or not. But fall term is coming soon. And okay, so let me start by giving you an update on UAC, which is UPass Advisory Committee, which has all the post-secondary institution and the student organization working together with TransLink to discuss the UPass. So recently, they started to ask for people who are interested in working group. SFS has put their name forward to be part of the working group to work on the solving the problem and negotiating UPass for fall term. And they also put out the nomination for co-chair of USC. So we put our name forward for that as well. And there was an internal election for that. And we won the election. So now I am the co-chair for USC. And today we had a meeting. So before that, on I think on Wednesday or Thursday, what day is today? Today is Friday. So yeah, Thursday or Wednesday, we had a meeting with Laurie McDonald from Emily Carr Student Union. She's ED there. And we had a meeting with the Chief of Staff of Ministry with Transportation, Leah, to talk about the situation for fall and negotiation with TransLink. So that was a very short meeting, but we discussed the need and how we can do it. So we are talking about like bouncing ideas and all. And in today's meeting with the whole UAC met today to discuss the situation, and Jag from TransLink was there too. And we discussed it in a So it's like there was no hard decision made, because like every student union right now is still considering what to do about the UPass. Like UBC is thinking about going in, starting UPass in September, but VCIT is still on edge. Emily Carr, on the other hand, is also getting kind of like feedback from students right now to see if they want it or not. So now the main discussion is before we meet next in mid-July, because that's where we have to actually give an answer to Translink if we are coming back to the contract or no, if what we are doing, if we're changing things or not, like what's going to happen in fall. So now SFSS will have to decide what we are doing. Are we going back to the contract, and or are we changing it, or do we have any kind of demands, or what the students want? So basically what I would like to propose is we send out a survey to our membership, ask them how much UPass they will be using in fall, or do they want it or not, just to give you like a little bit of idea on like how much UPass cost. So I have these numbers here. So right now we pay $42.50 for UPass per month as the contract dictates. But if we don't take it, and the students will have to pay for, let's say, 3-zone pass by themselves, then it's $177 per month for the same thing, right? So that's like a huge cost. But we need to also consider that like there are a lot of students who might not want to be on the UPass either, because classes are online and fall semesters as well, right? So we need to actually give out all the information to our students. And yes, Sarah dictates, Sarah put down in the chat box here that changing the contract is not on the table yet. So it's not like changing the whole contract or anything. We are discussing how to better solve the problems and make everyone kind of like happy with it. Let's just say that. So there are many ways we are considering, because like we cannot exempt too many people from the program, because we also already decided on the cost, and that cost was given to us, like 40 to 50 was given to us because there are 130,000 students using it, and they're all paying for it. And if we start opting out 20% or 30% of the people, the Translink will not allow to do that, because then they cannot meet their own cost for that, right? So now coming back to the survey option, we need to ask our students if they want to have UPass for fall term or not. We have to give them information that like fall UPass will cost 40 to 50 if they want it, and if they don't want it and they're not going to use it, or then everyone will like just going to have to not be on the UPass, and then it's going to cost 177. So now I will take all the questions members might have right now, and then let's have a fruitful discussion on this.
Thanks, Samad. And I know that you brought up the action item of doing a survey. I do like that idea, just because last time when we had to make a decision regarding the UPass, we did do our best to consult with students, but it was a very like quick thing that we had to deal with, and we didn't have a lot of time to do a thorough consultation. And then on top of that, you know, we're in a little bit of a different situation now, in that summer term essentially was, or the end of spring term and then summer term essentially was completely, we were still being asked to socially isolate and be staying at home. But now, whereas we're moving into different phases of reopening, and the fact that buses are no longer free, we may be starting to see an increased demand from undergraduate students to have the UPass. And on top of that, it is an opportunity for us to actually do a more thorough consultation this time around. Is there anyone who would like to make comment? And thank you again, Samad, for you know, doing such a great job in liaising with TransLink and with other student societies. I think that there will be good opportunities to, even if we're not able to change the contract necessarily. I know that this was only an amendment to the contract that was made. I think it may be worth looking into the exemptions that they offer us and all of that. I won't go into too much detail, as I know Samad is kind of leading on all of these initiatives. And he can talk about it a bit if he'd like. But Wei-Chen, would you like to go ahead?
Sorry, was Jennifer before me?
Yeah, sorry, Jennifer.
Thank you. So I actually had a lot of students reach out to me asking about the whole UPass situation, and it seemed like people wanted to be able to opt in, opt out, but I know it's not possible. So I was wondering if we do continue to not have the UPass because students are staying home and they're not going out, and I was wondering if it would be possible to set up some sort of transit fund so students who do need the UPass for work could just request funds from the SFSS to go towards transportation.
Thanks, Jen. Wei Chun, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, like, so like the suspension we have right now, is it just for summer term? And we discussed anything about what's gonna happen in the fall with TransLink? And like, to my understanding, where the other unions have to come to an agreement too, right? If we decide to continue the UPass in fall. I don't know how that has changed with COVID, but yeah, just want to get an explanation on that.
Samad, do you want to answer that one?
So I didn't really understand what Wei Chun was trying to say. So can you just like elaborate a bit?
Oh, so like for fall, like we have to. Is it a thing where like other unions have to come to an agreement as well if we want to continue UPass?
Okay, so right now every student union we talked with, they are all considering to talk to their membership. For sure, I know that like UBC has decided to go back on the contract for September. They are certain about it right now. That was the last time we had a chat. Emily Carr, on the other hand, I had a talk with Lori, and she said like they have received a number of emails from students asking about opting out from fees assessment for UPass. So they are trying to handle the situation on this side as well. BCIT is still not really sure, but seems like they might opt out. So it's like nothing is too certain right now. Everyone is just having discussion and trying to go back to their board and to their membership and reach out and figure out a way to do this. But mid-July would be the time we have to make a final decision on it, because that's where they want to finalize things for fall term. So as Sarah here put down in the chat box, yeah, thank you, Sarah, for that. I totally forgot. GSS is part of the contract, so it's like it's not like SFSS can be like, okay, we are opting out, and GSS will like, okay, we want to stay in. That's not going to work for GSS or SFSS. If one goes in, then other one has to go in as well, right? So our membership is 25,000 students, and GSS is way less than ours. But the thing is, graduate students are very much in need of it. Like last time we were having conversation with Mona, who is an executive in GSS, and she said like they had to start a reimbursement program for transits because a lot of their members have reached out to them and said like they are in need of like UPass, and they don't have that kind of money, and now they are paying like more than $100 for monthly passes. Just like think about it, like 40 to 50, and then now students are paying, their graduate students are paying like 150 or something for 2-zone or 3-zone pass. That's like too much for them as well, right? So GSS had to start the program. So I'm very much sure that GSS would like to go back, right? On the other hand, our side, I had conversation individually with OSAP and other exec members to talk, ask them like if anyone has like talked to students or received any kind of email or inquiries about the UPass, so I can have better understanding what people are thinking. And we haven't received that many emails or like that many inquiries regarding, okay, are we going back to full UPass or are we starting any reimbursement program? I only like met one person who reached out to me asking about UPass situation, and when I said no, we are not starting any UPass situation for fall, for summer semester, that person said okay and then left. So it's like I didn't really receive concern as well on that side, right? So now it's like SFSS membership is big enough, but the contract is including GSS as well. So I want to make sure that we are not upsetting GSS. We are not like, okay, yeah, we don't want to be part of this contract for fall term But then GSS is like stuck because we are kind of making a huge decision. We are taking 25,000 students out of it, and then they only have 5,000 students who want the program. So it's like, you see where I'm going at with it, right? So everyone gets what I'm talking about? Okay, good.
Boom, you can go ahead.
I agree with Jennifer's idea, especially because if, for example, the referendum, the survey comes back and students don't want to pay the UPass, that will screw over everyone who needs the UPass. Like, I'm one of those people, but it's also not fair for people who don't use it to pay $50 so that other people will get to use it. But it will have to be, like, I was without a UPass for a month and it was expensive, so it has to be like a lot of money. That's what I'm worried about. That's all.
Okay, so I totally understand Poom here. Okay, so thing is, not every student might want to go back to UPass, right? There are so many international students went back home. There are so many domestic students who are not in the same province, and paying for UPass is not fair for them either. But as you said, like, we don't want to screw up everybody here, right? Who depends on UPass. Personal example, you gave personal example. So personal example, I traveled the other day just down the mountain and came back in 2 hours or so, and I paid $6 for that. $6 just for one travel. And so it's very expensive, and 42.50 is a good number, a good amount to have such unlimited benefit for transit. It's a three zone. You can travel anywhere at any time. It's a good benefit to have. But yeah, so it's like not everyone is going to agree in the end. But we need to reach out to our membership and talk about it, like what's majority of them are thinking. And beside that, we all know in September, BC is probably or hopefully going to enter phase 4 of restarting, sorry. So that's basically mean most of the things it will open up in BC, and people will be allowed to go out, and like there won't be any kind of like major restrictions. So things will start to open up, and students might want to travel, and students might want to work. They might go out more than how they are traveling right now, right? Most people are still inside. That is a good thing, but in fall things might change a bit, right? So UPass is not just about like, okay, going to campus and going home. It also helps you travel anywhere you like at any time. So it's like, even though classes are online, but like, do students want to travel in fall more? So think about it. If your one trip, you said like, okay, no, I don't want to travel that much, but in 1 month, you pay 40 to 50 for unlimited benefit, and you say no to that. And then you said like, oh, I'm traveling 10 times, only 5 to 10 times per month. Then I paid $6 for one trip, and let's say 10 trips, then $60. I just paid $60 just to travel 10 times, right? But still, it's more expensive that way for me.
Thanks so much. Sorry, Matt, I missed you on the list. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to also mention that same with Jennifer, I actually received a lot of emails my first couple weeks from students concerned about the UPass. I think I received 12 to 15 emails, and that's just people like who didn't email like board members, like they specifically emailed me. So I did my best to get caught up with also the contract that was happening, and then emailing them back in a timely manner. So if you want more emails to be forwarded to you, I feel like it is a big concern. We have to look at not everyone's ideal situation, may not to have the UPass if it doesn't benefit them, especially. But I think we need to look at, what Jennifer was saying, like maybe looking at a different type of program that may, I don't know, just be able to like repay them in a way if they're a reimbursement program for UPass, or like, something that might cover the fees for international students, or something that the majority of students that aren't using it. I think it'd be good to put out a survey, but I also do know that, you know, a lot of students, I don't know how long the CESB also is instated for. And that's also going to affect a lot of students' work and things like that. So we need to look at all of the different impacts that, you know, precarious work conditions and things like that that students are put under, to properly support them through this. And also, you know, the one thing we don't want to do is not give, you know, students less ability to travel, you know what I mean? Because it's already inaccessible enough. So we don't want to take away from what students need right now, especially in the fall. It's kind of hard to say. Things are changing week by week, but I think if we start looking into this as soon as possible before, I guess, August 30th, before the fall, just to kind of wrap our heads around it, then just to have more student feedback would be really great. But if you want any of those emails forwarded, let me know. And if I receive any more, I'll keep everyone updated on that.
Thank you, Matt. Next person on the list is Heather. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, I just want to mention that Samad, that a lot of international students went back, and those even domestics who went back home, and the ones I'm in touch with, almost all of them are coming back in September, and I really think they'll be expecting a UPass when they come back. So I just want to put this out there, and they should be taken into account as well.
Yeah, and something that was brought to our attention as well is the fact that for a lot of students who live on residence, usually transit is their main and only way off the mountain. So that I think has been a big consideration of ours as well. Balqis?
Yeah, I just want to definitely have in mind folks who would need it the most, would need UPass the most, and agree with Matt in that we don't want to make getting around more inaccessible than it already is. So I agree with consulting students, but also just really taking into account the fact that a lot of people still rely on UPass, especially the most marginalized in the community.
Thank you, Balqis. Anyone else? I know it's kind of already been said, but I also wanted to emphasize the point that we will definitely be connecting with the GSS on this, as we do have to essentially come to one uniform decision with them. Matt?
Sorry, I should have mentioned this again too. It wasn't like, I want to state that the students that reached out to me were asking questions about what was happening in fall. And then when I did respond to their email, I asked them to reply with how their experience has been and what barriers this was causing. And a lot of them, this was actually causing more stress than was intended. That was probably like I would say like around 70% of the individuals who emailed me back, they said that it was causing distress and things like that and creating more hardship. I think, you know, I know at the time, like, people weren't allowed to leave their house and things like that. So just to keep in mind that this is just a small majority of people, and mostly a lot of them, it was causing a little bit of distress. So I don't want to like speak for like everyone's experience is different, obviously, but there are some people who definitely are being impacted more by not having accessible transit, or, you know, thinking about people's income. Like, a lot of people can't even apply for the CESB or CERB, and, you know, just thinking about that, it's just, you don't want to further make people, you know, that extra, whatever it would be for the whole summer or the fall, the extra $300 or however much that could make a difference. And if they wanted to take an extra course or something in the fall, you know what I mean? So just thinking about that, or that could be something for their groceries. And I feel like they shouldn't have to pay for that, especially if it's causing this amount of stress. So just take that into account, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Samad?
Okay, so I just want to say like a few last things. I heard what Heather said here. Most of international students he is in contact with are coming back in fall, and we might see other domestics coming back in fall, but like we still know that classes are online. Most classes are online, so there will be less travel for students to campus, right? And as we know, the city is opening, BC is opening up. We might see travel on like a not to the campus, but in the within the city as well. So the best course of action, I would say, is like consult with the students right now on that side, release the survey as soon as possible, and then also brainstorm ideas on our side of like if we say majority of students don't want it, how are we going to approach it, because we need to consider GSS here as well. And what kind of situation would be better? Do we have any kind of idea or strategy we want to take back to UAC and talk about, okay, we should approach the contract in this way. We don't want to change the contract, but we might want to ask them to like increase the exemption limit. We might want to ask them to like maybe make a separate contract for GSS, so that they, if we are opting out, we can have GSS to have the benefit, right? So let's start brainstorming from our side and release the survey and see how students respond to it.
Perfect. Thank you, Samad. Any other discussion on this topic? I think we have a couple of action items on the table now that we can work on. Any other, are we good to move on? Okay, I think so. So let's go on to item regarding SFU Health and Counseling Services collaboration. Jennifer?
Yeah, so this was left over from the last meeting. I'm just looking at the email that Health and Counseling sent over from when we met with them. I think it was me, Balkis, also Corbett and Matt who met with them, and they said that they can work with us to increase awareness of mental health services and how they work. They can also provide wellness training to the board, provide information and resources to support the board to promote well-being in learning environments, and provide guidelines to make their services more inclusive. So I thought I would just bring this up to see what everyone thinks about collaborating with Health and Counseling sometime in the future.
Thank you, Jennifer. Bill, please.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something we need to get going on relatively quickly, because yeah, students do need services. A lot of mental health services are needed at the moment. And one thing that did seem to come up was the fact that a lot of students know like vaguely of services but don't know exactly what they offer. So just like helping students understand what exactly is available and like what kind of help they'll receive if they reach out. We also did touch on how just overall improving accessibility and navigation for all the services offered by SFU, and in particular Health and Counseling. Just that it's just really need to work to make sure that a lot of Black, Indigenous, and people of color are included. As right now, it's not like a lot of them have said or expressed that like it doesn't feel accessible, as we have seen in our COVID-19 survey results as well. I'm excited to work with Health and Counseling, so I think this was just brought up as a like what can we do to work together kind of conversation. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing you guys' thoughts.
Thanks, Balkis. Would anyone else like to jump on the list? I think a part of the, making sure that folks are using some of the resources, or even, I know most people, if they are aware, there's always an abundance of off-campus resources. So I know Matt had touched on earlier today about, finding ways to make sure that not only SFSS and SFU resources are available to students, but outside ones, essentially, like in your city or in your neighborhood. I think that might be a cool thing to work on with Health and Counseling. Because if we can make a list like that, I feel like it might be cool for them to have a similar list on their website, and it would be quite low maintenance. I know that's not something we talked about in the meeting with Health and Counseling, but I think that might be a quick and fairly easy thing to do. Does anyone have any comments about the specifics around working with Health and Counseling services? I didn't know. Okay, Matt, you can go ahead.
Yeah, just from the meeting that we had with Health and Counseling Services, I thought it was really good to look at, kind of expanding that and even doing more promotion on our end, because a big thing that they brought up was they have like the services, but then we're able to use the SFSS platform to get it out to students. And like Balkis said, like it was very shocking for me to know that 70% of students know that there's these services, but only 20% use them. If I believe that's right, like from what I read in that. So that was something that I've been wanting to work on, and also creating more, just utilizing health and counseling services. They do have a lot of things that would really benefit like the SFSS, more so like for our membership, but also for the board in itself to have like, proper like mental health board development sessions. And that's just a couple things that like we talked about, but also creating more. I noticed that they have one thing that was really good that I noticed was that they were having 10-week sessions of anxiety and depression, like workshops and things like that, and maybe doing more things like that, or like student like isolation support groups through COVID and things like that, and working with them to see how they can manage that like going forward, like in the fall. I feel like there's a lot of good opportunity to work with health and counseling services in that regard.
Thank you, Matt. Would anyone else like to put themselves on the list? I do like the direction that this conversation is going, but I think what might be helpful is if there are like some action items or like some commitment to work on these things to some extent. And also something that we can essentially respond back to health and counseling services with. Matt, if you'd like to go ahead again.
Yeah, I just want to update that I have been having one-on-one meetings. Misha extended the introduction to Martin, who's the ED right now of Health and Counseling Services. So I've been having meetings with him, one last week. There's supposed to be one this week, but it fell through. So rescheduled it for next week. And then I can update the board. Is more so just an introductory things, and then probably some like more planning, and obviously going to bring that back with through the BIPOC committee as well for more cultural sensitivity, like health and counseling and wellness workshops and things like that. And then also for the broader membership. So for myself, after that conversation happens, whoever wants to join in is welcome, and then can update you after that.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. That sounds like a good action plan to me. Does anyone have any other comments or want to add anything? Are we good to move on, everyone? Okay, cool. So the last item is SFU athletics team name. Bilquis, did you want to go into this one?
Yeah, sure. So I've linked the petition earlier. I feel like we kind of had a discussion on it already, but cool thing is Marie is here if she would like to give comment on anything. But I think it's just worth supporting, just bringing it up at a board meeting formally that we do need to do something about it. So, but which we did kind of talk about it in the motion already though. So I think we're all right with this discussion. Yeah, just super inappropriate. Hope we change it really quickly. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Bilquis. And
in context, Marie is one of the organizers leading with Othniel this campaign for the name change.
Cool. Marie, I know that you're here. If you are comfortable with, giving us a little bit of background on your involvement and also how we can support, I think, even past the petition, because we just pass a motion that is in the chat box above, essentially committing the SFSS to supporting the name change of the clan. And it's something that we have had on our radar. However, I think it's great that we're able to actually support you and other students who are on the ground, working on this. So please, if you'd like to go ahead and say something, we would really like that.
Sure. I think maybe a really good thing that all of you could help with is just the concept of urgency and just like putting it out there. I know a lot of people don't know that this process has actually been going on for 3 years. So it's been really enduring and it hasn't been really hands-on on our end for a long time. So having it be hands-on now and having support coming from a lot of people is so needed. So thank you for that. I think like the biggest thing right now is just honestly send out emails to whoever you can, like get the discussion going, and just like put pressure as much as you can as well. And that being said, if you ever have questions, you could obviously email me. I'm more than happy to answer them, and I know Auth is as well. But yeah, honestly, you all are doing your part, so thank you.
Cool, thank you, Marie. It's a conversation that we have brought up to the university, and we will continue to bring it up every single time we see them and speak with them until we can get a true commitment from them. So thank you again for coming in, for having a chat with us. Does anyone else want to speak or say something? I know we did have a fairly extensive conversation already. Okay, I don't see much. Are folks comfortable with moving on? Yes. Okay, cool. So that was the last of the discussion item. So we can go into the guest 30-minute Q&A. I know there are a couple of students in, and also Paige from the Peak is still here with us. Zaid, our council chair, is also here. So if you folks have any questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to go ahead and do so. Paige, did you have any questions in particular? If so, feel free to just unmute and go. Okay, cool. Thank you. No problem. Any other folks in the call would like to ask any questions to the board? It doesn't have to be about this meeting's contents. It can be about whatever you'd like. But you can always email us if you have any questions as well. So please feel free to follow up. So I think we can move into adjournment. So be resolved to adjourn the meeting at 4:49 p.m. Would someone like to move this motion?
Matt.
Matt moves. Would someone like the second?
Heather.
Heather seconds. Any discussion? All right, so we can put it to a vote. So be it resolved to adjourn the meeting at 4:49 p.m. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent. All right, it looks like that motion passes unanimously as well. So thank you, folks. The meeting is over. See you all 2 weeks from now. Bye.